Hey everyone, this is Slooh. I'm Bob Berman here with you to explore the half moon, my favorite moon. And let's see if we can make it your favorite moon as well. Welcome. This is early December. The nights are nice and long. We've got amazing things coming up, and really welcome to all of you, especially those watching on our new 24-hour channel. That live channel allows our members to enjoy the be entertainment from the folks here at Slooh, from live telescope feeds to the best of Slooh's past broadcast, and even a few videos teaching you how to take advantage of the objects visible in the night sky. Now, normally at this time, we're broadcasting live views from our telescopes with some lovely music playing underneath. But as you might be able to see from this live image from our Canary Islands all sky camera taken right outdoors from our dome there, it's a little bit too humid. And to risk opening up the telescopes, there's all sorts of electronic beeps and things that warn when the telescopes can get harmed by that. So we're going to show you images of the last quarter moon is captured from these telescopes. And here we go. And the last quarter moon, another name for the half moon. There are two half moons every month. You might have known that. First quarter and last quarter or third quarter. And this is the third quarter. And this is the one that's lit up on the left, right? And the first quarter is the one that's lit up on the right. First quarter is the one everybody sees because it's at its highest at nightfall, dinner time, high up in the south, or at least at its highest of the night in the south. This time of the year, it's pretty high up. And it's out the first half of the night. Then comes the full moon. A week later, a lot of people love the full moon. We don't particularly, even though all that lore and legend and mythology surrounds the full moon, because you don't see detail on the moon. Then a week after the full moon, you get to this, the last quarter moon. Now, I think this is just so juicy because A, look at all that detail. I mean, start with the shadow line, the line separating night from day. It's true that we get typically 12 or 13 last quarter moons a year. Once a month, you're going to get the last quarter moon. So you can't honestly say it's rare, but it's rare because it doesn't rise until midnight. And that's why only telescopes on the other side of the world from America can be seeing it at this time. Because if you're watching before midnight, it's not even up yet. And it reaches its highest at daybreak. And if you see the half moon in the morning sky, look for tomorrow, no matter where you are in the United States or Canada or Europe. Tomorrow morning in the daytime sky, maybe on your way to work or school or just whenever you get up, and it'll stand out in the bluest part of the sky, the deepest, darkest blue, because it sits where the sky is most deeply polarized. And so it stands out, it really pops. And I love that last quarter moon because it happens to occupy the part of space that we ourselves are heading toward. In other words, as Earth is going around the sun at almost 19 miles a second, 30 kilometers a second, pretty fast, we're heading in some direction, right? Well, this moon the moon we're looking at now, the moon you'll see tomorrow morning in the day sky, that third quarter moon, the last quarter moon, happens to sit directly in front of us. It's like a reconnaissance scout. It is there where we ourselves will be 3.5 hours later. So when you see it right now, or tomorrow morning when you see it live in the morning sky, just look around the sky. You really won't be able to miss it as long as it's clear. You'll be seeing the spot that you yourself will occupy 3.5 hours later. So if you run into somebody and they say, "Hey, where are you going to be for lunch?" Just point up to the moon. Say, "Right there. That's where I'll be for lunch 3.5 hours later." So it marks the spot, the dead ahead spot as we travel through space. I think that's pretty cool. But just visually, take a look at this. First, almost right in the center, you see that mountain range right there that goes from night to day. Night is on the right, of course, daytime is on the left. Look at that mountain range lit up by the sun, the most famous mountain range in the entire lunar surface, the lunar Apennines. And it points down to the left towards one crater called Eratosthenes. Love that name. He was the head librarian at the lighthouse of Alexandria. You know, wouldn't you have loved to have a library card to the library. Did I say lighthouse? There was a lighthouse in Alexandria, by the way. That was one of the famous almost seven wonders of the world. I'm talking about the Library of Alexandria. He was the chief librarian, and he's the one who figured out the size of Earth. Look at it right near the top of your screen right now. There are the lunar Apennines, and they stop right at this a medium-sized crater with a mountain in the middle of it, and that's Eratosthenes, named for him, the first guy who accurately figured out the size of Earth. And he did it without ever setting foot outside of Egypt. Imagine that. And then continuing that same line to a bigger crater, one that has all sorts of white debris radiating away from it. And that's the famous Copernicus, named for Copernicus. Now, that crater is 54 miles across. Think of whatever is 54 miles from wherever you're located. Put yourself on one side of the floor of that crater, and that's where the other side is. And those walls on the edge in this picture, taken by Slooh telescopes, the rim of the crater is 11,000 feet tall, about as tall as some of the taller Rocky Mountains. And but because of the curvature of the moon's only one quarter our size. So if you're in the center of Copernicus, believe it or not, you can't even see those mountains along the rim. Even though if you're in the center, they're no farther than about 28 miles from you. And yet, because of the curvature of the moon's surface, they're over the horizon. So you stand in the middle of Copernicus and you don't see them. Don't you think this is cool? Boy, these are great features. Head right south of there of this whole thing, and you'll see a strings of craters, the lunar highlands that got bam hit and pelted during the period of intense bombardment that happened on the moon about a little over 4 billion years ago. So the main features there are the smooth, dark seas made of lava that flowed and drowned out the other craters, mountain ranges. Wow, lovely stuff. All of this on the last quarter moon. Of all the phases of the moon, the full moon again has the lore and legend. It looks round, and the circle is the perfect shape according to the ancient Greeks. But the last quarter has a lot of juice to it. Let's talk a little bit about the cultural significance and the lore and legend. And for that, we're going to go to Slooh's Trisha Ennis, who is going to share some stuff with you about the moon. I'll be right back.
Hi, Bob.
Hi.
Thank you, Bob. And as you already mentioned, there is a lot of myth and legend surrounding the full moon. Everyone knows all about the strange happenings that occur under the full moon, the werewolves, and even the origin of the term lunatic or lunacy. These things can all be traced back to the eerie full moon. But tonight is not about the full moon. Tonight is about the last quarter moon, the half moon. The full moon is actually going to be reserved for Christmas Day this month. Instead, I'm here to tell you about how all the different cultures, from the ancient, as Bob already has brought us in there with his talk of the Library of Alexandria, to the more modern neo pagan religions, see and understand the other phases of the moon as you're watching them go by right here. Now, The changing shape of the moon is probably one of the first night sky objects that we really start to understand when we're pondering the universe when we're kids. We learn the names or we make them up, from the crescent moon right there to the half moon tonight to the full or new moons and even the gibbous moon, which is probably my favorite because of its funny little name. What's interesting is that the moon was also one of the first objects to be fully understood by humans as a species. We don't actually know when mankind first figured out why their nightly neighbor changed shape the way it did, but we do know that by the time the ancient astronomer Ptolemy wrote down his observations, humans already understood the moon's orbit and what caused the different phases. But just because we understand why the moon changes and how its orbit works, that doesn't necessarily mean that everyone agrees about what kind of effect it has on our lives. Many cultures throughout history have had very different opinions on the significance of the changeable moon, from the Egyptians to the Greeks to the Babylonians to modern cultures. Now, at this point, though, we're going to focus on one group in particular, that of Western paganism. For many of these cultures and others, the moon has always been very female. The Greeks had three different goddesses that represented the moon, from Artemis to Selene to Hecate, or Hecate. Never certain how that one's pronounced. The lunar cycles are understandably representative of a woman's menstrual cycle, which follows a similar schedule. So, for pagan religions like modern Wicca, where the central deity is a female figure, it's unsurprising that the moon would then have special significance. And actually, the inherent femaleness of the moon is almost secondary to its significance for those whose religious beliefs revolve around the connectedness of the natural world. We know scientifically that the moon directly affects the pull of ocean tides, but some pagan practitioners take it a step further. They believe that the moon actually has an effect on the metaphysical world as well as the physical. Much like the agrarian cultures marked harvests by the appearance of the full moon, pagans believe that the different phases of the moon mark the proper time to take certain actions. The waxing moon, for example, is a time of creativity, of growth, and learning. It's a time to make positive changes in your life. The waning moon represents the opposite. It's a time to make space and to shed negative influences on your life and your spirit. The cyclical nature of the moon, from each phase onward, it just goes in an endless circle. Those changes also represent, to some, the circle of life, death, and rebirth. It's an essential principle of many pagan faiths. Let's return for a moment to Wicca, one of the more widely practiced pagan religions, especially nowadays, where the central goddess figure is actually represented in three specific forms. These right here. We have the maiden, the mother, and the crone. Now, these three signify the three stages of life: birth and childhood for the maiden, adulthood for the mother, and old age or death for the crone. They're also represented by the triple moon or the triple crescent, which is a symbol or talisman, this one right here, which uses the phases of the moon as representations of those three figures. The waxing moon for the maiden, representing birth and life, the full moon in the center, representing the mother, adulthood, and the waning moon to represent decline, old age, and death. Each of these phases follows the other: birth to life to death to rebirth, and this never ending cycle. And now that we know a little bit more about the cultural significance of the many phases of the moon, I'm actually going to step back now, send it right back on over to Bob Berman, who can tell you a little bit more about the last quarter moon. Bob?
Well, thanks, Trish. Thanks. That's amazing stuff, fascinating stuff. Uh, I didn't know that, a lot of that. Let's finish up with our look at the actual last quarter moon. And again, I want to urge everybody who has clear skies tomorrow morning. You'll see it before, 10 or 11 in the morning. Just look around the sky. You'll see it in the blue sky. Thrills a lot of people to see the moon out in the daytime sky. It's actually out just as much in the day as it is at night. And tomorrow is arguably the best time to see it. Quite high, quite lovely. Let's look at that other image we have of this. There was one that showed the bottom of the moon a little bit more. If you can get that up for us, Trish, because I want to go south along the Terminator, move downward along the terminator to the very bottom part of the moon. If we have that other image, yeah, this is very nice. And maybe we could even look a little bit further down. I believe we even had one more. This is perfect, perfect. Let's leave this up for a moment. Here we go. Last quarter moon or third quarter moon, the moon phase that's happening right now. And if you go down that line separating day from night, the Terminator, just like in the movies, which, by the way, slithers over the moon's surface at 10 miles an hour. So a jogger with enough stamina could actually keep running along that day-night line and keep the sun at the same angle in the sky. If you look all the way down, keep looking down the Terminator, crater after crater after crater, until you'll see one near the very, very bottom and just sunward of the day night line, and see if you can find the largest crater that also has a series, an interesting series of curved craterlets inside of it. Smaller on the upper left, the largest on the lower right, named Rutherford. Series of one, two, three, four. There's even a fifth, even tinier one on the extreme left. All those little craterlets inside this giant crater called Clavius. And that was the place in the movie 2001: A Space Odyssey where the astronauts landed on the moon and did their little trek to the nearby crater Tycho, which is where they found the monolith. So a little bit of sci-fi lore and legend also ties in with this third quarter moon. Gee, I hope you've enjoyed it. I sure have, because it's a great phase. So listen, before we leave, I want you to know we've got a lot of great things coming down the pipeline here for Slooh members, including a brand new feature on our website, which is called the Slooh Star Share camera. Now, the way this works is the camera will let our members look through all the telescopes we're using at any given time, at any given show, pick their favorite view, just snap on it, snap a picture, personalize it, share it with friends and family through social media. And so you'll be able to see if we're looking at live views and through various parts of the world and Slooh member images and all of them. You'll see everything. We're looking at high power, low power, and you can follow along and just zoom in and pick any image you're looking at. And speaking of images and shows, we've got a group of shows coming up next week that I think you're going to like a lot. This is a Comet Fancy show. It's really Comet Week, we're calling it, starting next Monday, 10 in the morning. Pearl Harbor Day. The week will kick off with a show all about Comet Catalina. Now, that's the comet that's swinging by Earth this month, bright enough now to be seen through binoculars, and it's going to be for the next month and a half by far the closest comet to us. And we'll see how bright it gets, but it's already interesting. We'll tell you how to do that during that comet show. And it all culminates during our great Geminid meteor shower show. That's going to be on Sunday night. Now, the Geminids will be the best meteor shower of the year. A lot of almanacs and other media outlets will tell you, oh, watch this shower, watch this one, the Orionids, the Draconids, watch the Lyrids. You know, a lot of them are, honestly speaking, very minor showers that show maybe one meteor every 15 minutes or so. This one will have one or two meteors a minute, and you'll be able to see it yourself. The moon is very favorable this year. It's not going to throw unwanted light all over the sky, and we're very excited about that. That's right. Even better than the Perseid meteors on August 11th and 12th is this one, the Geminids, on Sunday night, December 13th. The best meteor shower of the year. So you want to join us for that. Even if you're going to be watching it yourself, if you live in the country away from the lights of town, still turn on Slooh, follow it along with us so that we can talk about it and tell you what you're seeing and all stuff like that. And, we'll do a hybrid between us showing you special low light video images of the Geminids, and maybe you can catch some yourself as well. Exciting night. I'm very excited about it. Now, if you're watching this on Slooh's 24-hour channel, we're going to return you to some of the best of Slooh's past broadcasts. Those are highlights of our most incredible events through the years, and we'll show you videos teaching you how to look for interesting objects. and we'll explore the cultural significance of outer space and all sorts of cool stuff. So we're going to go to that now. Thank you for joining us for this last quarter moon show here in December. Lots of cool stuff coming up at Slooh. So, keep watching your schedule, stick with us, and, it never ends because the things in space, they go on forever. For Slooh, I'm Bob Berman. Good night.